All right, we are live. David Nichols confirms that we are live. Hello, everyone. It's not Friday. It's not Friday live. It's actually, what the heck day is it? It's like Tuesday or Wednesday. It's somewhere in the middle of the week. North of Monday, south of Friday. So it's a guild meeting. Now, if you are a longtime guild member, you're probably going, oh, I remember those. Yeah, those were nice back in the day. And I have definitely been slacking off on my, my guild meeting scheduling, and a lot of it has just been domestic reasons, just moving to Denver, certainly, and getting the house set up. And last year was kind of a rough year for the family, for me, but we are back in business. And now we're in the Denver shop. So welcome to your first guild meeting. I'm sure some of you here are here for the first time. And this is a very informal sort of get together. A lot of times I try to pick a topic, something we could talk about that can kind of guide the conversation, but I'm watching the chat room. Q&A is wide open. Anything you want to ask is fair game. But much like the Friday live stuff, if I don't have something prepared, it's a little bit hard to jump into full-on demo mode on certain things. But it's a nice get-together just to see how everybody's doing. And I will try to commit to getting these things out monthly like we're supposed to. So, yeah, everybody's saying, yeah, I remember those. All right, so I think what's on my mind at this point with the recent shop changes and moving into this space is shop workflow. And especially when you go into a new space, it's an opportunity. There's always problems to solve, but in this case, it's an opportunity to arrange things in a way that just makes sense. And if you are on your second shop, or in my case, like your fifth shop, you always try to learn something from your previous setups and apply them to the new one just to make things more convenient. Now, as much as this shop is a little bit smaller, it's about half the size of the last shop, there are certain things here that I'm more comfortable with. I'm going to give you an example here. Here's the assembly table right where we're sitting right now. Look behind me. I'll even back up the camera so you can kind of get a better view of what's happening here. So I've got the assembly table. Of course, that's where I do a lot of my, stock preparation and stuff happens here almost as much as the workbench. I'll do routing here, so there are machine operations going on. But it is really primarily for assembly. And what do you need for assembly? You need glue. Sometimes you need blue tape. You need right angle clamps. You need regular clamps. And that's all right here. It's like within arm's reach. In the bigger shop, I had my assembly table, sort of it was kind of centered across the width, and it was a 30-foot width. And the nearest area for the clamps and the glue was actually about, I don't know, I would guess maybe, 10, 12 feet away. Whereas this is right here. So yeah, it's a little bit smaller, but this is better. And I don't really feel like this is necessarily limiting my access to the table. The table is fine, and I can get around all sides of it. So I'm a little closer to a wall, but it makes more sense to be this way, So it's that sort of thing that I learned going from shop to shop and rearranging my shops as I was in them. It's that constant evolution. And I've talked about this before. You never stop changing your shop around. At least I would say most woodworkers never stop moving things around because you always find a better way. And I think part of it is it's sometimes nice just to see things move. But I think you can kind of just over time come up with cool ideas, and you may see somebody else's shop that inspires something and you go, yep, that's something I need to do in mine. So that is something that I apply to this shop as I put it together. But ultimately, there's one sort of general workflow that I like to envision as I'm setting up my shop. And I try to adhere to that, and that basically is material flow in from the door to the final part of the project, which would be finishing. And I try to think in terms of, are the machines sort of set up in a way that facilitates that activity? The problem is you confront obstacles, right? So you do the best you can, but that's always your sort of touchstone, your guiding direction that you want to take with your shop is to think in terms of material flow and then adjust as you go. So let's take a look around, we'll pan around. I've got lights to move and stuff like that, so hopefully this won't be hard to watch. I will do my best to make it smooth. Any questions while I'm moving around here? If not, I will just keep going. Alrighty, so right over here, Nicole is in the house with the kids. Get out of here, you stupid DeWalt saw. How do you really feel, Mark? Okay, so over here is the table saw. I have the same configuration I had in the old shop where my jointer is to the right of the saw. Now that is not necessarily because I think it's the best place for it in terms of workflow. It just nested there really nicely in the last shop, and I feel like it makes sense to do that again. My dust collection is set up to collect from 2 places at once here, and it just kind of works, and it worked in this space too. I'm gonna go all the way over there, and I think that's actually the best place to start. Let's go to the door, and I'm trying to think. I've got a limited wire length here, so I'll do the best I can to get all the way over there without destroying something. Oh, I think we might be okay here. Yeah, baby. All right, so this is the only operational door in the shop. Okay, so this is where materials come in. So what do we want near the door? Well, let's think about it. How about storage? So if you're bringing lumber in, having your lumber rack right next to the door probably makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Having your sheet goods storage near the door. And I'm gonna have an offcuts bin that's gonna live in that little alcove there. All that certainly makes sense because the flow dictates that we are gonna be bringing materials in right here. Now I've got a big open space here, and you might be wondering why. Well, you guys have seen me cut materials down on the floor, right? Especially sheet goods. So if I have a big piece of plywood and I'm gonna work with it right away, I'm gonna throw down my pads, throw the plywood on top, and start breaking things down. And then from there, I've got my MFT, and you've probably seen me use this to break down the sheet goods into smaller pieces. So once I have the 4x8 knocked down, I go to the MFT to cut it down to further size, or I might go all the way to the table saw. And that's one of the compromises. That can't be helped. I'm not gonna put the table saw over here just for that, but I will keep the MFT located here. And here's the other reason. At the MFT, what tool am I using to make those cuts? The TS saw. I'm using my TS track saw. So if I'm using my TS track saw here, and I'm using it down there, it probably makes sense for this all to be in the same area. So now I can do a cut here, and I can just rotate the boom arm around and do my cuts down here. So it's a very sensible arrangement for everything here to be located in this one area. Now, not too far away over here is the chop saw. Okay, the chop saw is another tool that I feel should be near the entrance because materials come in through the entrance. So if you're using solid lumber, a lot of times you're gonna do the breakdown at the chop saw, right? So it makes sense to be in this location. Now, I'm a little bit further away, but compromising. I had this wide double door space here, and I like to have a good amount of space on the left and a good amount of space on the right of my chop saw just for extra long pieces. So it necessitated putting this thing in this centered location. So that's the compromise. I'm a little further away from the door, but it's more important for me to have a good length on both sides of that saw in order to make those cuts. But I'm still fairly close, you know? So as soon as something gets chopped here, what's the next step? The jointer, okay? And the jointer is right across from that miter saw. Okay. So right here, I could, stack my material, probably have a, little cart, get all my stuff cut to size to rough length over here at the chop saw, and then come over to the jointer, start my jointing operation, right? That makes a lot of sense. Then I can come right over here. It's not that far away. And I've got both my planer and my drum sander. And this, of course, I'm gonna have my cart again, feeding stock through here, finish through the planing operation, and then I'm gonna go into our drum sander and kind of do the same operation, just different tool. A little more light would be good. Okay, so that, for the most part, is the primary workflow of material as it goes through. And of course, the table saw is here for finished joinery, finished milling. This is all sort of in a square, right? It's all fairly closely located near each other. Over here, I've got my tools. Okay, so you guys might remember the tool cabinet. And that is located specifically near the bench. Because if I'm gonna take these tools, 99% of the time, I'm going right from here over to the workbench, right? So a terrible place for this tool cabinet would be all the way over there under the wood storage, right? That wouldn't make much sense. But here, totally makes sense, pretty close to where I need it to be. Also, the assembly table where I might use them is not that far away either. But there are some things that kind of, once you satisfy the major stuff, there are some things that kind of are difficult to satisfy a logical location. So here's the router table. Why is it here? Because I had no place else to put it. I probably would rather my router table be on that side because there's other tools that kind of fit into the same category, that it's sort of in the middle of the project, you're gonna be using it. Maybe later this will make a little more sense when I've got a wall here and some degree of storage and maybe a cabinet for bits and components and things that I usually just put down there. Maybe it'll make more sense there, And the same thing with the hollow chisel mortiser. That's just kind of hanging out here because I've got nowhere else to put it. Now that said, the things that are difficult to fit into this paradigm should be on wheels. Because if it's on a set of casters and a mobile base, now I can actually move this wherever I need it to be for the moment, right? So if it makes more sense and it's more convenient to pull it out there, well then fine, I'm just gonna yank this guy out here, get it where I need it to go, and now I'm gonna start dropping crap. It's okay, it's just router bits. I got more of them. Damn it. Forget about it, let's pretend it didn't happen. Okay, all right, so this is live, folks, that's how it goes. So that's the router table, and let's look over here at the bandsaw. And I apologize, I'm probably getting some questions, but I'm on a roll, so I'm going for it. Okay, now on this side of the shop, you guys know how often I use my lathe, but it's in a good spot. It's actually in a really good spot because I alluded to this in the video. I just published a video with a shop update showing the point that I'm at this point, and I talk about this. I put the lathe in that location strategically because the lathe is something I don't collect dust from with the Cyclone. And I needed to buy myself some space with my dust collector. You really need a nice straight shot out of that intake. If you can get 5 feet, great, at least 3 feet. And this is a recommendation from Oneida specifically. You really want to do that before you turn, whether it's turning up, turning to the side, whatever. So that's what I was trying to accomplish by putting the lathe there. The lathe bought me extra space before I have to do my first dust collection at these two sanders, right? So that's why that's there, but it just worked out nicely. And I've got my two sanders together, standalone, independent sanders. I think it's good to just couple them together. Makes sense, at least to me. And then continuing down this wall are more tools that need dust collection because it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? If you're gonna run the ductwork that way, try to keep all of those tools that need dust collection in a line with one another. Of course, in the middle of the shop, there's nothing you can do. But certainly if you can put the bulk of your power tools in a line, you can actually have a much more simplified ductwork installation as your main trunk just kind of goes and delivers dust collection to the tools that need it on that wall. So over here, we've got my two bandsaws. Now, I'll tell you, I'm not 100% happy with this. I did downsize the big 2013, Powermatic 2013 bandsaw to the PM 1500. It's a smaller footprint and it's a smaller saw, but it's pretty powerful and I think I'm gonna be okay with it. I got that just in case I needed to get rid of the 14-inch too. I really don't want to. I like having a 14-inch bandsaw. It's a good size category. You can keep a nice short, 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch blade, 3/16 or something, so you can do nice tight curves, and then I could use this primarily for resawing, veneer, things like that. So I want to keep it, but I have to experiment with the setup. So this guy, I'm really not gonna move, right? He's gonna stay where he is, and I may have an issue here. Outfeed, perfectly fine, because that sander is actually lower. The table is lower than this table, so I'm okay on the outfeed side. It's the infeed side that I'm a little bit concerned about. So having this saw here is the least of the evils. If I put it on that side, now it's too tall. This is 14-inch bandsaw is actually taller, the table is, than this one. So if I put it on that side, I'm gonna hit it every time I have something that's a little bit extra long. At least on this side, there's a good percentage of my cuts that I'll be able to do right here within this space and not have to move anything. But there will be some if the piece is extra long and I've got to kind of get it all the way back here that this guy's going to need to move. But again, mobile base, it's on a mobile base. I could pull it out and move it to where I need it to go, get it out of the way. And I am really, really hesitant to get rid of my 14-inch saw. It's just too handy to have around. Okay, so that's the reason for this particular layout of the saws. And moving around a little bit more, there's the drill press. Now, a drill press is kind of the wild card. I mean, it's almost like the router table in a sense, where it kind of is just its own little world. And while, again, I mentioned I want my router table, I'd like it to be a little closer this way or on this side, it's fine where it is, especially if I can get some good storage over there. So same thing with the drill press. And I alluded to this on Wood Talk at one point. Someone was talking about putting things in corners. And a drill press is one of those tools that you're almost compelled to put it in a corner just because it kind of fits really, really nicely in one. And the problem is if you put it in the corner, you now have two walls that limit how much you can do, in terms of the length of your workpiece. So I think something like this, where I have a good amount of clearance here, I got a compressor here, but I can move that. It's on wheels, so that's really no problem. Right down there, big Ingersoll Rand. And what I really like about this, and this is another improvement over the setup in the old shop, is here's my drill press, and here's a cabinet full of all my drill bits and stuff. And come take a look. Right, this is one of the cabinets I had in the back of the shop that used to hold like finishing supplies. I've got all my bits in here, my bit cases, Forstner bits are in there, my charging shelf for my chargers, and then down below, I've got a sort of built-in concrete footer shelf, and that's where I'm putting my drills for the time being. And I'll probably build some kind of a rack to hold all the drills a little bit more elegantly than this, but it certainly works for now. So what I like better about this in comparison to the old shop is, let me think. In the old shop, I had my drill press, and then I had a floor standing cabinet, which was actually an old towel cabinet that I had made for our house that just had seen a better day. So I brought it in the shop, just made out of plywood. It was junk. And didn't know what else to do with it. So I just kind of threw some of the drill press stuff there. But all the way over by the computer, on the other side of the doorway, was where I held my chargers and my drills. And I had some drill bits inside the drawer in the cabinet. So again, what was the other example? I can't remember the one that I used. There was something I used as an example that made sense this way. Oh, the assembly table and the clamps. So in much the same way, I had these similar themed things spatially separated. So you would think that having this dream shop, this much bigger shop, actually would be the best of all possible scenarios. And in reality, it isn't, and it could have just been poor planning on my part, but I just couldn't figure out, or I didn't put enough time into solving the problems in this wide open space to sort of create the storage solutions that made sense. In this shop, it just kind of came together, and this was a good spot. It's near the assembly table, plenty of clearance. I had this blank spot on the wall. Let's put a cabinet there. Let's put some drill bit stuff in it, and now all my drills and stuff are all in the same place. So I think when I left the old shop, I kind of got the feeling that some people were feeling bad for me. And I hope after you see the shop tours and keep up with what's been going on, that's not the case anymore, because I don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, of course, if I had to downsize any further than this, maybe a 3-car garage or a 2-car garage, then you might see a few tears. And I would still get over it, and I would make things work. But this size space, it's 950 square feet, is just not something I can complain about. And frankly, there are improvements to be had here. Really, the only drawback is I can't roller skate, I can't pole dance, and I can't do ballet between my machines, and that's very sad. But I think I'll get over it. So that, my friends, is my shop flow spiel. Oh, by the way, you're gonna see a big light that's gonna look kind of horrible. But over here is something most people don't have to worry about. This is where I do my podcasting. So I've got the Wood Talk set up over here. My monitor is actually on a mount that I could swivel around. I could put it flat against the cabinet so it's out of the way if I need to. And I actually am staying, at least for now, with pegboard storage on here. Now this was all here when I got here. The previous homeowner had installed this, And it works. It works for now. I'm sure there's something better I can do in the future, but it does work for now. And one last thing that I'll show you is the hand tool area. Now this area is not quite as cool as it was in the last shop, but I think it'll work just fine. So over here is my workbench, of course, and then my hand tool area. I've just got this one section of T111. It's like just a little bit of a throwback to the old shop. And I've got some of my hand tools here, and of course, the tool cabinet, which is now loaded a little bit more. I used to have my hand saws on the wall. Now they're in the tool cabinet. And these are nice and closely located, with respect to the workbench location. This will do for now. And I think in the future, when I drop some faux walls in here and box this off and actually have a stable material to attach things to, like cabinets or tools, whatever, this will be a much more interesting background to look at. Right now, it's just a garage door. So I'm gonna spin around, get a cord in my mouth, which was pleasant. Hey, look, there's my slab I'm working on. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I don't want to change subjects too quickly. This is the next project on the free site. And yeah, why'd I put my glass of water right on top of that? Smart, Mark. Way to go, stupid. All right. So I will open up the chat, see what's going on. I feel like it's been a very unilateral conversation here. It's like I talk to myself. Hey, Sean Rubino's here. Scott Hampshire is here. Everybody's here. What's up, everybody? It's like old school times, huh? Geez, I think 6,000 YouTube channels sprung up since my last guild meeting. Yeah, you saw the fire extinguishers over there? Well, things sometimes get a little hot around the workbench, and it's important to have fire extinguishers. 2 of them in case one fails. How do I really feel about the DeWalt saws? Yeah. Let's see. I like the saw. There is nothing wrong with the saw. I'll tell you what I don't like is the people making decisions over there. That's what I don't like. I've been quiet about it. I can complain about this stuff to guild members, right? It's Sean Rubino's birthday. Happy birthday, little boy. That's awesome, dude. How old are you? You don't look a year over 50. Is that a compliment? Actually, you look younger than me. But happy birthday, man. Seriously. Mad Knight says, are your epoxy and adhesives stored close to the assembly table? Sort of, yeah. I mean, you see where I'm at right now? Let me spin around. The cabinet organization is not what I want it to be just yet. This was kind of just a means to an end. And if you look all the way over here, and I'm sorry these lights kind of make it a little bit difficult, but right over here, I've got a couple of bins. And for instance, just these Home Depot Husky bins I think are really cool. I've got my adhesives in there. So that's part of this too, is becoming more agile, mobile, I guess, to be able to take this bin and just bring it over to the table so I've got my glue and stuff that I need. The epoxy happens to be on the workbench right now, but it also lives in there. Now ideally, I'm probably gonna wind up moving them over to this side. Part of my challenge here is over here I've got all my equipment. So the computer, router, little Sonos daily whacker and my mixer, that's all on this shelf. So I do want to be careful what I put in here and where it goes. All these finishes, a lot of this finished stuff, I think I'm going to regain some of this space by taking that down in the basement. So we've actually got a storage room down in our basement, and oh, well, here's a thing. Here was a tough decision. The finishing cabinets. Do you guys remember those? My metal cabinets, like the kind you get at Sam's Club, Costco. So those big double door cabinets, I had 2 of them. Notice they're not in here. It was right here, and I tried to make it work. All my finishes were in there, and it was fine. I had reduced down to 1, and I took the other one into the basement. And I started to look around, and I just could not get this wall to lay out the way I wanted it to, because this big cabinet was here, then the drill press, then the first bandsaw, and it just was not panning out. And I'm like, I hate to do it, but I'm gonna have to take those finishes out of that cabinet and put them in over here. So the finishes are not easily accessible by any means. But I thought about it and I'm like, how often do I use dye? I mean, you guys see the work I produce. How often do I pull out a can of dye? And it happens once in a while. I think well, of course, the clock was dyed and green stuff gets dyed, but ultimately, is it really gonna be that bad if I take all of those cans of dye and stain and bring them down into the basement? They'll be protected from extreme cold, not that I'm gonna let it get that cold in here, but put it in the basement and out of sight, out of mind until I need it. And I'll get that space back. And that's probably when the glues will return back to this side. Here's the other thing. I've got a shelf up there above my clamps. I could always put some glue over there and further refine that setup. All right. Matt Lohr says, can you move your drill press beside the new bandsaw since the table can drop for more room? The table can drop. The question is whether the chuck is going to be in the way. I think the chuck might be in the way too, though most of the time it's probably going to be behind where the fence would be. Yeah, that's a possibility. That's definitely a possibility, but it would then take this whole thing, which I like having near the assembly table and near the workbench, and I go for my drills a lot. Drills are something you grab pretty often and drill bits, and having them 10 or 15 feet down further might not be great. So yes, you could, but again, it's like a personal, everyone's gonna have to compromise to get these setups to the way that makes sense, but the compromise is a very personal decision. Like what I'm willing to compromise versus what you're willing to compromise is gonna be a very different thing. So for me, I kind of want these things close. That's more important than solving the bandsaw height issue. Hey, Vic is here. What's happening, dude? Miter Mike, where's my giant sign? It's waiting for a home. Hold on. Hold on. Are you talking about this one? My bottle opener giant sign? Is that the one we're talking about? Because here it is. I'll bring it over here for now. It's on a French cleat. I got to find a home for it. Don't worry, Donna. I think you can, you can always go back and watch it. It's sort of DVR'd on YouTube, and we'll have it. I am recording it just in case something happens with the live stream. Yeah, Brian, I am also on a tablet, and I tried the pop-out chat earlier, and does not work so well on a tablet. Well, here's the thing. We always had an independent chat system for the guild, and it's been so long since we've used it, something happened and it wasn't embedding properly on the page. So I looked for a different solution and I thought, well, we're using YouTube for the live stream. Let's use the YouTube live stream chat and embed that. And that worked. It got the job done. So this is kind of the lowest hanging fruit right now. But we can always try to improve it. But other than the pop-out thing, I mean, it seems to be working okay. It's not terrible. DJ Dan B4 says, do you find workflow varies based on the project that you're doing at the time that makes you question how you set up your shop? Yeah, I would say that happens quite often. And I think it's the sort of accumulation of events like that that make you change things, right? So we always end up with one setup that we go, here it is. This is my setup. I'm good to go. And then you do a project that makes you go, well, dang, shouldn't I put that over here? Maybe I should put that over there. If it happens once, it's forgivable, and you say, oh, that was a fluke. But if it happens twice, and then 3 times, and now you go, you know what, dang it, I'm moving my drill press over there, just like that guy said, because that makes sense. So I think that's what it comes down to. You confront these things, of course, we all do, and it's a matter of how many times do you confront it before you finally give in and just change it. Steve Coleman says, with regard to your mobile bases, are they hard to move on or across the rubber flooring mats? Looking at doing something similar, I assume you have the 8mm. I do believe it's the 8mm, Steve, and they are not difficult to roll on once you're on. The heavier the tool is, the harder it is to get them up that little lip. And frankly, like if you look at the bandsaw over here, the bandsaw is pretty heavy. Let's see how hard it is. Now, honestly, if I were moving either one of these tools, I would probably be inclined to pull the pads up in that area to move it out. My guess is the 14-inch bandsaw will probably handle this okay without buckling the flooring. I do not think that the 15-inch would do quite as well. There you go, no problem at all. Now over here, if I try to move this guy, there's a real good chance. Yeah, there's a good chance that that's not gonna go well for me. So if I had to move it, I would be moving those floor pads out of the way. So it's really a question of weight and a question of the size of the wheels. And as we know, machine mobile base casters are like notoriously small. So they catch on anything and everything. And funny thing is the 14-inch bandsaw's mobile base has a larger diameter wheel than the one that's on my 15-inch bandsaw. So what are you gonna do about that? I don't know. It make no sense to me. It's like the, who was it? I think someone posted something like a Seinfeld style reference in the guild at one point about how the Festool vacs are like all powerful, but they are stopped dead by their own cord. You know, the wheel hits the cord and it's like, right, you know, ass overhead. Oh boy. Wooden Sky, I did sell the 24-inch bandsaw. Actually, if I had said, because I used to get them confused, if I had said it was 24 in the past, I was wrong. It's actually a 20-inch saw. And the 24, if you just look at photos, the 24 and the 20 look exactly the same. You have to see it next to something to see the difference, but mine was a 20-inch, and I did sell that one. Did I lose, or Chris wants to know, did I lose or break any shop things during the move? Oh, the Powermatic sign, it's up there right now. Nicole has informed me that I need to move it down here. So you will be seeing it again soon. I thought it was fine up there. She thinks differently, so that'll be on my to-do list tomorrow. Did I lose or break anything during the move? Let me think about that, Chris. Nothing comes to mind. Mostly, I mean, everything that I could think of made it just fine. I don't think anything got messed up. And in fact, I'll tell you what, I haven't checked any of my tools for calibration, and I'm not going to. I'm actually just going to start the projects and start milling wood. And if I notice a problem in the wood itself when I check it for square, then I will go back and do the work that I should have done in the first place. But I'm being lazy about it and just jumping right in. You know, I would not be surprised if these things held their settings. I've moved a couple times and was pleasantly surprised at how well everything kind of just stayed put, even with the vibration and, you know, the drive all the way up from Arizona. So that, I mean, that's a lot of vibration in a big old truck. So I don't know, we'll see. But I can't think of anything that broke. Pretty much everything made it okay. I mean, some things may have gotten like a little scratch or a dent or something, but nothing tragic. Oh, nice. So Tidwech, sorry, I'm gonna have trouble with screen names, guys. Tidwech said that he started to make his own mobile bases with 4-inch casters because of that issue. Man, wouldn't that be nice if everything just had 4-inch casters? That'd be brilliant. More squats at the gym. Hey, Dane, I could have moved that. I'm just trying not to tip it over in front of everyone. It's not that heavy. Oh, I have a setup video where you get to see me manhandle that thing off of a pallet. That's coming up soon. All right, Funk, you're blowing up my phone, man. All right, let's see what else we got. David says, I think a shop cabinet needs to be on a project to-do list. I can't get used to seeing a gray Craftsman cabinet sign when we are used to seeing nice cabinets that mark using builds. David, this is not Craftsman, my friend. It's Gladiator. And if you know anything about cabinets that you could buy at the big box store, these are the most overpriced and overrated brand of garage storage known to man, okay? It's made by Whirlpool Corporation. This is not a Sears product. But seriously though, I agree with you. We need something a little more spectacular than this. And actually, I think once that wall gets done and we have something better than a garage door, that will likely be the filming wall. Right now, this is just the better of the two, and this will have to do for now. And I will not be building cabinets here. I have no need for cabinets this way. It would push the assembly table too far this way. And if you look at the relationship here, that is a no-no. Look at what happens between my assembly table and the table saw. Right? So if I do anything that pushes the assembly table out this way, that goes against my feng shui. I can't do that. So no cabinets over there, but there's certainly a possibility of doing something over there. But honestly, I think my cabinets, if I build them, cabinets are going to be over there. You see right where the miter saw is? I think I could build a bank of cabinets into the miter saw station, make the miter saw part of that cabinet installation over there. That's certainly a possibility, but not behind the assembly table. Man, I am gassy. I had some nasty pizza tonight, and I am gassy. Not that you care. I thought I'd let you know. Yeah, I know a lot of people are saying that, Jamie, the T111 background is missing, but I got a little taste of it over there. And honestly, if I do build a faux wall in front of those doors, I'm not going to use drywall, right? I'm probably just going to get some of that T111 siding, slap that stuff up there, it'll be good to go. Yeah, that's true. Craftsman's not with Sears anymore, right? Hey, Mateo. Hey. You want to come and say hi? Come real quick. Daddy? Yeah, bud. When you're talking, we saw you inside the computer. Oh, you're watching me on the computer. Would you like to come and say hi real quick, and then you can go back with Mommy? So, Daddy? Yes? Was that real or not? It was real. Come over here. Hurry up. Is that a camera? That's a camera right there. Come here. Mommy can see us? Mommy can see us, yeah. You can't stay, though. You got to hang out for a couple of seconds. It's Mateo. Look, see you right there? Yeah. You having fun? You hanging out with Mom? Okay, that's very nice. He likes the beard, don't you? Oh, you sound like Daddy. You say, excuse me? Excuse me, yeah. Monkeys. Okay. Oh, yeah, the J. Bates miter saw station would be good there. Hey, mister. Hey, mister. Okay, hey, dude. Mr. Mommy. Listen, man, say hi to everybody, and then you can go back and hang out with Mom, okay? Because I got to get back to work. Bye. Okay? Yeah, all right. Hey, knock, knock. Who's there? Mateo. Mateo who? Mateo, are you glad that you're in my camera? Yup. That makes perfect sense, buddy. Just kidding. All right, have fun. Now he's going to get yelled at for coming out here. He's a crazy kid. You know what I do like about J. Bates' design of his miter saw station is the fact that the space on the shelf, if you are actually using it for miter saw space, if you just have a big open, tabletop there, bench top, I mean, depending on your setup, you might have a use for it. I wouldn't. I would use it for miter saw cuts, and the space behind that point, behind the fence, would be kind of wasted. So I like the fact that he's got that secondary bank of cabinets there that turns it into a very useful space that would have otherwise just kind of been empty space. Yeah, that's right. I can get all my good jokes from my son now. All right. Sorry for the distraction. Got to let the kids be part of the action, though. I like Vic's theory on it. I do subscribe to that too, Vic. Vic says, buy some cabinets and just build something you want to build. That's a really good point. I do want to build the miter station, but regular cabinets, I kind of fall on that same line of thinking. I mean, if you can afford it, if you've got the budget to do it, I think it's far better to just buy the dang thing, be done with it, and build your next cool project. But not everybody's in that position, so I could see why people would do things differently. But I am definitely a solution buyer in most cases, and you guys probably already know that about me. Give you, for instance, over here, I have this parallel clamp rack, right? And one of the things that I've been thinking about doing, which I think is really great advice, people are saying instead of storing these this way, if you can afford coming out from the wall a little bit more, to stack them sideways. So you can actually have, 5 or 6 of these things hanging off the wall, and then they only take up this much space. So I've seen plans for things like that. It's actually not that difficult to build, but I was on Rockler's site just looking for links for something on a write-up, and they apparently now have the metal versions, kind of like the ones I use for the pipe clamps and the parallel clamps on this side. They just make these nice metal versions that bolt right into the wall. They go into the stud, and these do exactly what the homemade versions do. They stack them out this way, and it's two-sided. So you actually can get a total of 12 clamps per fixture, all right? And that fixture takes up maybe 9 inches of space. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and do the math on that. 12 times 4 is 48 clamps. So if you have 48 clamps across there, you've got a lot of clamps. And they also take pipe clamps and different types of clamps. So I think I could get a lot more efficient with this installation. But my point, going back to what Vic said, yes, I could build it, but I could also just make a few clicks and buy it and be done with it. And it's just a personal decision that I make that leads me to that sort of thing. I respect both ways of going about it, but if there is a purchasable solution, then I kind of like that. Do. Yeah, you guys have been there since the beginning with Mateo. So he was born during the split top Rubo build, and I think at the end of the build is when I pretended to change his diaper with the leg vise. But yeah, that was early days. Oh, the one in the corner? That is a, what's the number on it? It's really low, 82. So it's got 82 inches on the bar, so I'm guessing they would refer to that as an 82-inch clamp. It's pretty long, huh? And I mean, it's not even mounted on anything. I don't use them that often, so they're just kind of shrink wrapped together or stretch wrapped together. But they're nice to have when you have that really long glue up, big bed builds and stuff like that. Really, really nice to have. Do I remember the price? Are you talking about the clamp rack? I think it was $39. Almost positive it's 39. Rockla, because the other ones are cheaper, and I think it's newer and it's just more substantial. It's got more going on. In fact, I think I might even need to run like a 2x4, two 2x4s across, anchor them into the studs, and then use some lag bolts to connect these to make sure they're fully connected. Yeah, I think it's like $39. Epona's song. Where's my ocarina? I don't know where my ocarina is since I've moved. I better find that. That's very important. Rob Soma, what's happening, man? I've always said you had a lot of class. Yeah, time flies with kids, that's for sure. And you always get to that stage where you look at them and you go, I will never have this stage with that child again, because they're always moving forward. It's cool, but it is sad at the same time in some. But I'll tell you, there are some stages that I will never want to have again. So I'm kind of glad that those are behind me. There are definitely some of those. Yep, 39. There you go. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, she probably did hide the ocarina. I'm gonna have to go find it. So my thoughts, Alexander wants to know what my thoughts are on the new miter saw. So way back at the old shop, I bought 2 miter saws when I ditched the Capex. I got the Bosch and I got a Makita 12-inch. So I put the Bosch in place, and it was one of those things that, make sure not hit my microphone. Once I had it running and everything was going great, I kind of didn't want to touch it. And I liked it. It was working well enough. You guys, if you saw my review comparison to the Festool, there are things I didn't love about it that aren't as good as the Capex, but it was serviceable, got the job done, and I was moving along. I was building projects. So the Makita just sat on the floor, and when we moved, that was a perfect opportunity to force myself to put the Bosch away and bring out the Capex, or put the Bosch away and bring out the Makita, and then use the Makita for a period of time, so that I could, and again, the only reason I'm doing this is I am searching for my new miter saw, but the excuse of getting 2 of them is being able to comment with experience about 3 different popular saws on the market: the Capex, this Makita, and the Bosch. And I'm probably not going to do any more than that, but I like having that perspective. If I, am giving someone an opinion, I now have a much more informed opinion because I used it. So the Makita is there. I haven't built a project yet that used it. I mean, I've used it to chop, some furring strips down and some basic stuff, and it cuts nice and clean, but it's also got a, woodworker, not a woodworker too, what do they call it? Chop master. It's got a forest chop master on there, so of course it's going to cut cleanly. What I really need to judge it is how square is it? How well does it stay square? And when I start to use it to cross-cut important parts, that's when I'm going to be able to form a little bit more of an opinion on it, as well as how good or bad the dust collection is, because it's probably going to be bad. And honestly, I've had people, folks who were surprised that I got rid of the Capex, probably for good reason, because I am so focused on good dust collection. Nothing can touch the Capex's dust collection. Now, you can make improvements. I've seen people do some crazy mods on the Bosch, and in fact, one guy recently sent me, it's not that crazy of a mod, but he kind of built a little more of an enclosure on the back of the saw that helps direct the sawdust and kind of mimics the way the Capex is set up. And it did a really good job, but you have to, like this aftermarket modification stuff, I think these companies should work harder to get these things to work. You put the damn dust port on there, well, let's go the extra mile and design a way for that dust port to actually do something, and most of them don't. And I think that's a shame. So I can understand why people were surprised, because really the Capex out of the box is the only game in town if you want good dust collection. So you know what? There may be a time in my life, in this journey, where I decide that I put that dust issue back on the top of my priority list, and then I wind up selling these 2 and go back to the Capex. I don't know. I'm a very indecisive person. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. But still, I try very carefully not to ever contradict myself, but I do reserve the right to change my preferences and needs over time, right? So who knows what's going to happen. So for now, the Makita's doing the job, but it is not doing the job in terms of dust collection. And I think Donna, I may have just answered your question. Some delicious pho. Todd, I think someone answered you, but I'll answer you as well. The slab is going to be a coffee table. Hey, let's do that real quick before we go. Give you guys a little sneak preview. I haven't, other than like the Wood Talk live broadcast the other day, I didn't really say much about this. This is a Claro walnut slab. It's about 2 by 3 in change. So kind of an interesting dimension. And it kind of, I think of it more like a circular table, just in terms of like, if this is gonna be a coffee table, what kind of coffee table is it? Well, it's certainly not your long, narrow coffee table. It's more like a circular coffee table in terms of the space it occupies. But really, this is the bottom, by the way, but a really beautiful slab. Great coloration on here. And I was gonna go with these bad boys. I ordered up some hairpin legs. And really one of the reasons we're doing this is to showcase the new Wood Whisperer thread taps, which we will probably we'll be opening up pre-sales for that this week. So keep an eye out for that. But I'm gonna show how you could tap into the slab and, just drive a bolt in there and have a really good secure connection without doing any, without direct screws, which can kind of be ugly and problematic. It's just a more elegant solution. You could remove the legs if you need to, and the threads hold up pretty well. So I had these picked out, and I feel like I'm repeating myself. If you listen to Wood Talk, you heard me say this before. I'm not really a fan of hairpin legs. I feel like they're completely overdone, and especially when it comes to live edge slabs and really unique pieces where you don't know what else to do, it's like, okay, I'll just throw some hairpin legs on there. Forgive me, and I apologize ahead of time for anyone who loves these and uses them, but they feel like, I don't know, it's the weak choice. How else can I express it? It feels like a lazy choice. I feel like there are other solutions to this challenge that we can come up with, even if you're building it yourself, but as evidenced by the fact that I bought them, I got into a position, and I could see why people do it. I got into a position where I couldn't think of anything else. So I just went with the hairpin legs. Until I went to CS Woods here in Denver, and I found a set of square legs made by a local fabricator. And these will probably go out closer to the sides like this. I've got some epoxy here, so I can't put it all the way. Right? And I think, at least in my opinion, I think that is going to look so much cooler than a set of hairpin legs, right? And I think with the shape of this piece, it's, even though it's a live edge and I've got two, wavy edges, and that's actually kind of cupped this way, it's kind of a very square design. And I think these really thematically fit this piece much, much better. And I got to support a local fabricator by purchasing them, and I think it's a good choice. I think it's going to look nice. It also begs the question of, should I consider building an alternate set of wooden legs and following a similar pattern, but they would have to be quite thick, because part of my concern is racking on this. And notice how these guys, look at that support plate on there, right? This is going to be a pretty nice, strong connection. Each one has 6 bolt holes for us to connect to the slab. That's fine. If this was made out of wood, and let's say I made something equivalent to this, 8/4 stock, maybe cut it 2 to 3 inches wide, and kind of make a nice square or rectangular shape, and attach it that way, how fragile is that connection to the slab going to be, especially if pressure is applied diagonally? Can it resist any racking? And I don't know. So, I think at this point, I really need to get the video out for the sake of the thread taps, so I may not worry about it right now, but I do have lots of access to slabs now, and we might be doing something like that in the future. Maybe, what maybe I'll do is I'll build along in January 2018 when Cremona makes his waterfall slab table. And then I'll submit my picture when I'm done for the gallery, like everybody else. Oh, and quick order of business. I should have mentioned this at the top. There is a new bundle that just changed out last week or a couple days ago. I can't remember. Time really flies. And it contains the 4 new projects. So if you don't have any of these projects, you're eligible to buy in. And that is, let's see, it's got my dining chair, Cremona's Queen Anne Highboy, my jewelry box, and Cremona's Waterfall Live Edge table. So that's a killer selection, 4 projects. And that's all, again, the early bird price, 50% off. So if you don't already have that, it's time to buy it. Prescott, the question about the bolt holes is a very good one. I haven't addressed or solved that problem yet. He says, are the bolt holes big enough to allow for movement? And they are not, unless you use a really, really tiny bolt. So there's a little bit of movement, but I think cumulatively across this width, that's not enough. So I'm probably going to have to do something, maybe file them a little bit wider, just to give myself a little bit of breathing room there to allow the bolt to move. Good catch, though. Don't go full Cremona on us. I won't do that. I don't have the hair for it. No bandsaw mill for me either. See, like we were talking about before, I'm not going to mill my own slab. I'm going to go buy it, you know? That's a smart thing to do. Josh was asking if there's going to be a Bell Forest package for the table build. I'm currently working on it. The trick is the lumber thicknesses. So Bell is trying to see what they can get in 16-quarter stock. As an alternative, we may just offer an 8-quarter kit and you would have to do some glue ups. That would be unfortunate. I would rather not do that because it kind of creates some confusion. If you buy the kit, you kind of expect to be able to build exactly what's in the cut list. So we'll have to see. I'm almost done, buddy. I'll be right in. So if they can get the 16-quarter stock in a couple of species, we'll be good to go. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. Okay, as you can see, that was my little guy telling me it's time to read some books. Matt Lewis keeps writing questions and second guessing them. Don't ever let that stop you. We're all friends here. You can always write a question. Donnie says, what are your thoughts on having the router in a table saw wing? I think that's a great solution if you're really pressed for space. I don't like it because the table saw extension wing is something that tends to gather crap. So when I need to use it for the router, then I've got to move all this stuff, right? So I do like having the independent router table. It's absolutely the preferred way to do it. But if you're pressed for space, that's one of the easiest things you could do. I could free up, probably, about 3x2 area. So like 6 square feet of space I could free up if I put my router table in my extension wing. So if you are really pressed for space in a smaller shop, it's a perfectly legitimate way to do it. And there's some really clever solutions for that. So certainly. Oh yeah, we're big book readers. Every night. I think I've read my son a book. Well, I do it most of the time because Nicole's with the baby. But between Nicole and I don't think there has been a night that has gone by that we haven't read at least one story. And this was like before the kid even could comprehend anything because he was a really terrible sleeper when he was a baby. So it was, the only thing we could do to kind of try to calm him down was read him stories. But you know how it is. It's just kind of the parent's voice that helps. But because of that routine, we just never got out of it. And every night, kid gets at least 2 or 3 stories. You know what we have? We've got those Marvel 5-minute story collections that he's really into now. So they're actually, it takes a long time to read. So you're like laying there and I'm starting to fall asleep as I'm reading it. But we do have some superhero things there, which is pretty cool. I'll take Matt's question since he was hesitant to ask. I'll make that my last question for Matt. I asked on the Facebook page, but I'm curious of your opinion, why so many tables, workbenches, assembly tables? I understand wanting the loss of workspace, but why not just 1 or 2 big tables? That's a dumb question, Matt. I'm just kidding. Well, I like tables. I feel like this is kind of a workflow and a setup that I've gotten used to. And I think a lot of people, the longer you do this, the more you build, for better or worse, you build habits and you stick to those habits. So if I didn't have an assembly table, could I use my outfeed table as an assembly table? Absolutely. How many people have you seen that put their workbench at their table saw and use the workbench as part of the outfeed solution? There are ways to combine these things to get more space, but it's kind of like, same thing with the router table. If you don't have to, and you can have that extra space, why wouldn't you want that extra space? So it isn't until I absolutely have to get rid of it that I would do that. So I like having a separate assembly table because I can have parts being worked on at the workbench. I can go back to my table saw and use it for something. And I could still have parts being partially assembled or glued up here on the assembly table. It's just a matter of being able to multitask and get lots of things done, have different places to put your stuff. But there are more efficient, concise ways to do things in small shops if you need to. Okay, and what was the last one I saw there? Are you planning on doing any tool storage or shop projects? Yes, John, at some point, the miter saw station, I want to do a cabinet for under the table saw. I'd like to redo my outfeed table to make it an outfeed cabinet of sorts with some storage in it. And do I know when the next meeting will be? Matt Lohr wants to know. Yes, sir?
Billy was eating a muffin.
She was eating a muffin?
Yeah.
Did you stop her?
Yeah.
You should tell her not to eat that muffin.
But, guess what?
Yeah.
She ate the wrapper.
Oh no, she ate the wrapper. You know what's gonna happen? She's gonna poop that wrapper out too. Okay, go inside. Count to 20, and I will be in there.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, bud. Okay, next meeting will be a month from now. You guys want me to put it on the calendar, like make it official so that I have to commit? Because that's kind of the only way to get me to do it. Otherwise I will forget and it'll be a week late, then it'll be 2 weeks late. So let's do that. Let's pick the next meeting and I'll just throw it on the calendar and send out an email, let you guys know about it. Sound good? Oh boy. Could you suggest a good way of batch sanding a bunch of wooden coasters, 4-inch to 5-inch diameter? Man, that sounds like a nightmare. Maybe if you put them all down on a surface and maybe even build like a small tray that you can close the gap. So you could stack a bunch of them side by side and put them all out on a flat surface and kind of put wedges in or something that squeezes everything together and then sand that as one surface. The problem is they might flop around and vibrate quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know, that's a tough one, man. When I had to do the little discs for the, what do you call it? The Connect 4, the giant Connect 4 set, and I had to sand all those, I just did it by hand. And I mean, by hand with a random orbit sander, and it was a pain in the butt. So other than trying to come up with some kind of jig, I'm not really sure. Okay, I told my son 20 seconds and I lied, so I'm gonna get going. All right, thanks everybody. And remember that early bird bundle is there, 50% off. Take advantage of it. And we got some cool stuff coming up. We got Cremona's thing is in full gear right now, and he's doing a great job. I'm really enjoying this farmhouse table build, and you know, the usual stuff. We'll see you around. And if you aren't aware of it, we do the Friday Live every Friday if you want to catch us live. That's me and Nicole. So thanks for watching, everybody.